Hello, Story Seekers. I'm Ben.
I'm Nico, and you're listening to The Tiny Bookcase.
For this episode, we are joined by a Belfast-born author of epic fantasy and horror who writes tales about adventure, well-being, and reconciliation.
His debut grimdark fantasy, The First Scars, was longlisted for the 10th Fantasy Self-Publishing Award run by Mark Lawrence. Additionally, The First Scars was funded by a successful Kickstarter campaign and generated over 800% of the original target. A folk horror anthology of short stories to be launched by the Slab Present World Fantasy Convention this year will feature his first conventionally published work.
We would like to welcome Ivor K. Hill.
Hello, Ivor.
Hiya.
How the devil are you?
I'm not too bad. It's not too hot up here in Glasgow, thankfully.
I think that is
Yeah,
what
we-
summoned the devil to my mind, the heat.
It's a thing, isn't it? I don't know why we keep doing this, but every year, whatever the hottest day of the year is, you can guarantee there's a Tiny Bookcase recording happening on it. By the way, it's we apparently like getting really, really sweaty in front of microphones for our
Oh,
art.
And then we
You gotta
record a
suffer for
tiny
the art.
bookcase.
But yeah, it's lovely to have you on, Ivor. I actually have a question to get us rolling. If you're up for giving me an answer,
We'll see.
if you had to pick your favourite castle, knowing that you then have to defend it from an imposing enemy force, which would it be?
Oh god. Well, there's the castle. Can I choose a real castle?
That's a really good question. I was thinking real castles because I was thinking about your love of like Norman castles, but yeah, you feel free to go fantastical if you want.
No, I'll stick with real. There's my hometown's called Carrickfergus, and there's a outrageously big Norman castle. It's still in amazing condition, and it's got all these myths and stuff around it. I don't know about defending it. I don't think I'd be any use in a fight. But I was going to get killed on any battlements. It may as well be in my hometown.
Yeah, I like that. I guess you
Sort
could
of-
armchair general the defense. You could marshal them, tell them where to defend if you know it well. Like if it's your, how many times do you reckon you've been around that castle now?
So many. The amount of, whenever people visit, I take them around and stuff. I think if it was under siege, though, I'd be too busy looking for the legendary escape tunnel that leads into town than trying to defend the walls. I'll leave the heroism to my characters, I think, rather than myself.
Very
It's
good.
extremely wise. Well, quite fittingly, for you having answered Ben's question in that way, we have a prompt for today. For those of you who are new here, we write a story each, every episode, to the same shared prompt. And that prompt this week is Indulge. So, Ben, you will be playing the part of a Swiss chocolatier for me. Tell me your story.
Indulge. Father Guillaume woke in a panic, and his heart beat against the inside of his ribs like it would burst itself on those prison bars to be free. What? He asked, blurting out the word and rubbing away the sleep gunge that glued his eyes shut. No one was there to answer him, so he peered about the room to see what could have woken him. From his cushioned chair, he saw that the shutters of his office's windows were still open, just as he'd left them. Late afternoon sunlight pooled on the many tables in the room, or it would have done had the tops of those tables not been buried beneath mountains of half-filled ledgers, annotated holy books, and the poorly spelled petitions he received for his pardons. The wood-panelled walls were obscured with mighty bookcases, containing all the completed ledgers he had filled in over the years. The dusty reek of slowly decaying paper had penetrated the wood and stone of the room. Glowing motes, like miniature stars, floated through the gilded shafts of sunlight around him. Father Guillaume yawned, heart still thumping with the primal panic of rest disturbed, and then sneezed as the paper dust caught in his throat. He was wiping his nose on the sleeve of his cassock when a knock at the door made him look up. It was an unusual knock. 6 firm and deliberate raps. Father Guillaume stood and bustled over to the door, which he dragged open. "Good afternoon," he said, with the flair the locals had come to expect from a Spanish priest speaking French. The tall man at his door matched Guillaume's tone with the easy confidence of the well-travelled. "Good afternoon." His accent was refined, but rather unfortunately English. "Welcome, welcome. What brings an Englisher to Marseille?" "Why, my business with you, father, naturally." "Then come in, my child, come in. The servant has the day off." He waved vaguely at the permanent disarray of his personal study. "But I have watered wine, should you require refreshment?" "Thank you, yes." Guillaume indicated a chair for the tall man to sit in, and then busied himself fetching a clean glass from the sideboard. Wine in hand, the visitor stretched his legs and leant casually against the back of his chair as though he was silk draped across it. He sipped the wine, smiled, and then pointed to one of the bookcases. "These are for the tower at Rouen Cathedral." "Yes, indeed. A lucrative almsgiving for the diocese, which I played my humble part in. They call it the Butter Tower now." "Because the indulgences you sold to fund it were for eating milk and cheese during Lent." "I salute your knowledge, sir." Guillaume smiled. It came easily to him in the Englishman's easy presence. Guillaume studied his prospective client's face as they smiled at each other. Faint scars marred what would have otherwise been a statuesque visage. The man's neck, shoulders, and chest bulged with muscles that betrayed the powerful physique hidden under his fine clothes. A soldier, Guillaume assumed, but a rich one. "Do you seek indulgences for your time spent at war?" "After a fashion," replied the Englishman. "I fought in the Holy War, and lost more than my looks to the recklessness of youth. Now, after my imprisonment, I know better what to do with my existence, and wish to see heaven." The Englishman lapsed into silence as he sipped more wine. "I am sorry to hear of your troubles, my son." Guillaume racked his brain to figure out to which war the man was referring. Perhaps the Ottoman invasion of Lower Italy, or their earlier capture of Constantinople. The Englishman's age was difficult to judge as the shadows darkened the scars on his face. He leaned forward, as though he could hear Guillaume's thoughts. "I have done large and terrible things, father, for which I would like to purchase a sizable and watertight indulgence." "I see. Well, as you may know, the size of the indulgence must be commensurate with the donation that accompanies the request." "I am aware, and I'm willing to pay in gold." "Very well, let us begin." Guillaume slid a fresh roll of parchment out from his desk, sharpened his quill, uncorked a fresh pot of ink, and began to write. "What are you seeking forgiveness for in order to see the kingdom of heaven?" "Betrayal, rebellion, pride, murder, kinslaying, and blasphemy, I suppose." The Englishman counted them out on the fingers of his hand that was not holding the wineglass, restarting the count in order to include the sixth sin. "These crimes must weigh heavily upon you, my son," said Guillaume with affected compassion as he included them in his scrivening of a boilerplate indulgence. "And how many years would you like your time in purgatory to be reduced by?" 100,000 years. The Englishman smirked and took another sip. Guillaume's hand paused as his mind fizzed with confusion. "I'm sorry? That is a great deal of time." "And I intend to pay, rather, should I say, donate, commensurately." The Englishman laboured the last word as he repeated it back to Guillaume, then drained his wineglass and set it down on the desk between them. "Such a cost," mumbled Guillaume. "Could build you a new cathedral, father, bigger by far than Rouen. Let me show you." The Englishman clapped his hands together. The sudden sound rang like thunder cleaving the firmament. Guillaume, wincing, saw the door of his office open, and 6 well-dressed manservants came in, each carrying a large chest. They deposited their burdens where he could see them, and opened their lids to reveal overflowing stacks of écus d'or. French gold coins. Father Guillaume cleared his throat. 1,000 years, it is. And he bent to the task of writing out the indulgence. When the words were inked, he scattered sand on the parchment to set the wet lettering permanently. Go with God, my son, for you are pardoned, said Father Guillaume as he passed it across the desk for the Englishman to read. The man bit his lip excitedly as he scanned it. Or to God, at any rate. This will unlock the way nicely. Would you like to meet him? The scars across the man's face seemed to have cracked and worsened further, as though he had survived having a bombard fired at him from close range. Meet him? The sudden unease Guillaume felt made him lean back from his client's terrifying face. The Lord, our God. One day, God willing. Father Guillaume had never been threatened quite so thoroughly nor quite so strangely. Well, I'm afraid it's now or never. The Englishman, who Father Guillaume was no longer certain was either English or a normal man, stood and took a long tube from one of his manservants. When he turned back to Guillaume, the priest saw it was an arquebus firearm. Come with me, the terrifying client insisted, and his face was dark with fathomless shadows. The wood-panelled stone walls dissolved around them, as though they had drifted away into a fog Father Guillaume's eyes could not penetrate. He saw that he was now standing with his client on worn, jade-coloured marble, and when the mists cleared, the room had become the interior of a fortress made from that same stone. The walls of this mighty room were decorated with banners made from translucent cloth that shimmered with heraldic devices Guillaume did not recognize. Gory and still bleeding trophies of dismembered human-looking parts accompanied those banners. But to Guillaume, the strangest trophy was the interlocking sets of severed white wings that hung by adamant chains from the center of the domed ceiling like a grisly chandelier. You kept our wings. The Englishman spoke quietly, anger clear in his tone. You kept our wings! He roared, and pointed the arquebus at the wizened old man who was sat in the throne at the far end of the hall. The ancient man seemed to nod, but the bobbing of his bald head looked as though it might be because he was incapable of holding it upright anymore. Guillaume stared at him. The man was curled up like a crustacean and swaddled in oversized robes woven from that same fabric as the banners. Through that sheer material, Father Guillaume saw a body ravaged by disease, age, and war. Unhealed wounds oozed at his every move, and Guillaume began to suspect that the robes had been keeping him alive for some time. Is that God? He asked. Not anymore, replied the Englishman, who fired. Guillaume clapped his hands over his ears, far too late, and the arquebus's bark deafened him. The priest, his mouth agape, saw the bullet had torn through God's eye and snatched away the back of his skull. Golden blood splattered over the marble of his throne, and everywhere it touched, it melted through the stone. The ancient figure shuddered, and then his body slid from the throne to twitch on the ground before the Englishman's feet. The murderer stepped over the corpse he had made and sat in the throne. Thus enshrined, he allowed his glamour to fall completely. Father Guillaume collapsed to his knees as he realized who he had pardoned and what he had been an unwitting accomplice to. Hot blood bubbled at the corners of the priest's eyes, and warm streaks of it ran down his cheeks as he finally beheld Satan.
That was very cool.
Wow.
Very cool.
Thank you.
I love that.
I mean, straight out the gate with some fantastic scene setting. Like I could feel how like dry and kind of like dank that room must have felt. That dusty, like parchment-filled room.
Yeah.
And it got me so locked into the realism of that kind of medievalish setting that I wasn't ready for the rug pull, and when it happened, it was like, whoa, holy crap! Like when you transitioned into the Jade Palace, my note is, and I will read this exactly as I've written it. What the fuck? That's what I wrote. That's
I
with
was
a
too
DE
swept up at
and
that
an
point to make
OK.
any notes.
Go on, Carl. Sorry. So go
I was
on,
too
Ivor.
swept
Sorry.
up at that point to make any notes. I kind of forgot. I thought the idea of the first half essentially being building up and involving a confession. I thought that was a great format for a story that has to stay so short, regardless of how it worked with the theme. I thought that was so effective.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Oh, I see. So like it's a very quick way of getting you into the character, basically. Is that?
Yeah, it's a recognizable kind of format for a
Yeah.
conversation, and it dangles the question right away. What did they do? You get intrigue. There are a couple of I really like the term sleep gunge from the eye. I think that was the kind of imagery that dragged me in. I was wondering, have you listened to the audiobook for Devils by Abercrombie?
I have. This
Yeah.
is completely you've skewered it immediately, which is that I was actually going to mention it during this, but I simply can't get that book out of my head.
Yeah.
And I've got some thoughts about it, because
Mm,
I'm not sure it is better than his First Law Trilogy World stuff.
mhm.
But it is incredible. It's a really interesting feat, and it's got me written all over it. And I love Stephen Pacey as an audiobook
Oh
reader.
yeah.
He is probably the best in the business, or at least amongst them. And yeah,
But
there's a character in that called Father Diaz, who I think
oh yeah.
you're aware of. And I was trying to do my own, like, Spanish guy speaking French, but I'm
Yeah.
bastardizing it by using English.
Uh-huh.
And I think occasionally I just ended up with Father Diaz. So well spotted.
Well, it was a beautiful homage at worst, I think.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that was always my intention. I think it was just such a powerful piece, and he I wanted to do something very different. If I was going to stray quite close, I wanted to do something very different, which I
Yeah.
think I did here. So
I really
yeah,
like the concept of being able to actually buy your pardon from the church, and that be so effective that Lucifer can do it.
I mean that was
That's
real.
really cool.
The indulgences were real,
Yeah,
hundred
I
percent.
mean for it to be real, as
Oh, like
opposed
like
to
actually
a thing
magic,
that they
right? Okay,
did.
I see.
Yeah, for it to be functional. That's
Yeah, it's
that's
functional
very
magic. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I get you.
But
I get you.
the and his horror at finding his wings
Mm.
chained, and I mean right where God's sitting as well. That's some real disrespect shit, isn't it? That's like
Yeah.
if if you were really good at football when you were at school and then you fell out with your parents and you finally went around to reconcile and your football boots were dangling in the living room in front of the telly. That's
Yep.
I
Yeah.
thought you used the wings very well. The whole surprises need to be inevitable paradox.
Yeah.
It made the beheld Satan line. It platformed that line really well, I thought.
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering whether I'd been a touch too obvious with the three instances of sixes happening. Um, but
I noticed the
I
first one.
liked it too much to not do it.
yeah. The him counting blasphemy as his sixth sin. That's a great
Yeah,
bit.
I noted that as
That
well.
I was,
really
yeah,
blasphemy, I
for me
suppose.
he was.
I suppose, yeah.
I suppose that's one. Yeah, I was looking for that whatever the sixth one was, and I was kind of like trying to perform it as I was writing it, being like, okay, so what would he reach for to get to six? Like
Yeah.
deliberately, he likes to work in sixes, um, or maybe he can't not work in sixes. I guess I don't know,
Yeah.
but anyway, I was quite pleased with that. So thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to write that
Jaywalking.
bit. Yeah, yeah, just could have been anything, couldn't it? Oh,
I did have
crikey. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Go for it.
I do have one potential skewer. I'm sure you'll battle decide, but what was
Hopefully not.
so
Go for it.
what was so unique about this priest that Satan had to wait for him specifically across all the centuries?
Well, I guess I was trying to aim for that. Maybe this is more like historical context, but I was trying to aim for roughly the peak of when indulgences got really out of hand,
Mm.
which was the late 15th century, thereabouts. And there were instances. The highest one that's been recorded that I'm aware of was somebody got one for 40,000 years at roughly that kind of time period. Um,
How much did that cost him?
so I don't know. I don't know what the price
Oh,
was, but
quid,
I've
but in
guessed
modern
here.
money, that's nice.
But so I was aiming for that. I think I wanted to sort of see, because as people listening to this know, I'm not a fan of organized religion at all. I think you might be able to tell that from the story that I just read, where God gets
Mm.
shot in the face. But the but legitimately, the church did try and curb indulgences, and there were popes trying to like put put the kibosh on it, basically just slow it down, make it less money oriented, because it
Mhm.
basically became
Yeah.
a way for the church to just bilk people out of money for fake goods, basically. Because what's an indulgence? Like the concept of purgatory is essentially invented to make money.
Yeah.
So happens just before that, and then one of the most sort of the funniest one that happens with that is this tower at Rouen, where it's called the Butter Tower.
Oh, that was
For
real?
the
Right.
for the Lent reasons. That's real. That's a real thing. Um, so I was
Isn't
sort of
that
the
interesting
reason
that
it
you
was,
can...
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead,
within.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that's the reason I was aiming for this period. So I think this is why, in the context of the story, why Satan has waited until now, because he's like, this is at its peak. I might actually be able to get what I need from an unscrupulous priest that won't ask any questions. And this is the guy that did the cathedral, so he's my man. It's a bit of a stretch, but I think
Oh, no, it works,
it,
works.
it's kind of skewers that the church at that exact point. And as we know from the real world, that things like the Protestant Reformation and things like that came out of how bad this shit was. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
I have a note, and it may be me mishearing, so do correct me if I'm wrong. It's an edit note rather than anything else, but it's that the length of time that the devil asked for was, I believe, 100,000 years, and then the priest only
Oh,
gave him
yeah.
1,000.
oh, that might
That's
have
what I
been
heard
me
as
just
well. Yeah.
misspeaking.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
But,
it is written as 100,000 years in the story.
okay.
I was actually really struggling. The heat really got to my brain in that one. Obviously, it won't be on the won't be on the final finished recording that people hear, but I made probably the most mistakes I've made in years on that one. So that was
I can feel
user error.
every crevice in my body because it's slightly damp, Ben. I think we can forgive you
Oh, God.
the extra 99,000 years.
That's a long time. You paid a lot of money for that.
Yeah.
But yes, it was 100,000 years. Oh, should I even do it now so that you've got it for the insert?
No, this is canon
No,
now.
you're gonna leave it. Son of a bitch. You always
Leave
do
all
this
of
to
it. I'm even leaving this bit in where you ask if we should take it out, Ben.
me. Me spread eagled for our audience. Lovely. Anyway, thank you. Any more notes at all, Ivor or Nico?
Not from me, I don't think.
I did wonder, if something gets caught in your throat, would that not cause a cough rather than a sneeze? That's the level of pettiness I'm going down to here.
Ooh, no, that's a good one. I like that actually.
I'm
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
seasonal allergies, so I'm very sensitive to. That's a
So you're
area of
really on it with
expertise
this
for
kind of
me,
thing.
sneezing. Yeah.
I think you are correct. I think that is a little. Although I guess if he's allergic to it, he might cough originally. He
Yeah.
might then sneeze. Yeah, but like you're right. Like the its builders, he yawns, inhales one of these dust motes that I've described, and then he should really like cough before,
Possibly even a
at
spot.
least cough before sneezing. Yeah, like a splutter before sneezing, or just something that makes it gross so that he has to wipe something off, some fluid on his cassock. I wanted to
Yeah.
disrespect the cassock. I wanted to see him
Uh,
disrespect the cassock at that point. But yeah, fantastic. Right. Well, if you're up for it, Ivor, it's we're around to your story.
Cool. Okie dokie. Indulge. Edmund was a dirty feckin' liar. Every twat under the ivory tower knew it, from Southton all the way to Northton. If there's one thing those in my line of work know, it's liars. And yet there I'd slunk, to sit in Edmund's linen-draped, incense-drenched, old bruised brown parlour, and listen to him spout utter shite. Of course, I'd always been in the shite. I'm from Southton too. Oh, aye, Edmund crooned. Yeah, yeah. He waved his hands over his crystal ball. With his chewed fingernails and buggy eyes, he looked like an urchin sweeping grime from their bathwater to see how funny it made their legs look. Aye, aye, his jaw clicked as he yawned. Oh, I'd woken him in the middle of the night. In feck indeed. Oh, wait. Hurry it up, I said. His 3 incense sticks wafted enough nose-clogging perfume to make me wonder if I'd have preferred the sewage of the streets. Just, you need more greens in your diet, detective. Don't be a bloody idiot. Fine, he giggled. The answer's aye. Elaborate, please. Well, emerald glass would be a new beginning for you, but not the end. You don't say. Nothing was ever going to be the end of it. Too many reasons in this city to chew emerald glass. The tower protected us from the wide world, but there was a price to be paid for its shade. Down here, be it Southton, Northton, Easton or Weston, all was a squalor. And what does squalor birth but demand for solace? You could hardly go 10 paces without seeing slime-coloured smiles on glass munchers. And you do not want to die with emerald glass in your veins. You mean this thing will work? I asked. Edmund giggled again. Aye, Mr. Adam, whoever he is pure fucked. And the captaincy? Yours, detective? His next giggle accompanied a chorus of wails from a shadowy corner of the ceiling. They were everywhere down here, haunting every nook, spooking every cranny. Ghosts with green teeth aglow, chewing around shit-eaten grins. I took my flask from my waistcoat, swallowed some gin, then proffered it to Edmund. He reached, but I grabbed his wrist. Here now, he squawked, then snatched up his ball in the other hand. Do you know what I can do with this here thing? No. I could fill your dreams with your teeth shattering in your mouth every night. His eyes blazed, but his face twitched as if bugs crawled under his skin. Liar, I said, the gin lending that extra grain of gravel, giving me my only for interrogations voice. Edmund went very, very still. They always did. I had to flatten his answers, leave no wrinkle for lies to lurk. Did I make it the captain of the guards as a result of my sting on Adam? Will it work? Yes. And that was blatant as sunshine. When folk lie, they tend towards giving too much information, always trying to look a tad more helpful. I yanked on his wrist anyway, lifting his haunches from his mauve multi-cushioned armchair. And who are you planning on telling about our wee chat? He licked his lips. Well, that captain wouldn't be worth it. I left in the nurse's arm and took my next swig outside, toasting the tar. A penny canny half lifted her patched skirt at me. I should have demanded if she knew who I was then, just to see her face. It was already late, but I still managed to drink too much. My nerves had been crackling about the sting, and I woke with a cotton mouth in a bed that was too warm with sodden, constricting sheets. But I was the detective, the information man. It was my lads who did the work, caught Adam with his trews round his ankles, just where I'd expected. We executed him. 5 days later, I was captain, earning twice the coin, a whole district of Southton, my responsibility. 5 weeks after that, the first red-smiled ghost appeared. If anything, the poor bastards dropped faster to ruby glass than emerald. But I was captain, and I wasn't having it. I appealed to the clerks of the tower, and they kindly provided pistols and powder, and we cracked down. The streets and alleys were swept of munchers, needlers, thumbleweeders, dealers, suspected dealers, and sex workers. Given my station, I could hardly be seen in Edmund's neck of the woods, so I had the lads round him up too. Release me this instant, Captain. He was a liar, aye, but I'd squeezed pure truth from him once already. Edmund, what do you know about ruby glass? Nothing. What does your crystal ball say? It's at home, and next I see it, I'll be too busy hexing you to ask. Henceforth, your left foot will be longer than the right. Enjoy buying 4 shoes, you wanker. I let him go, then turned my interrogation voice on the other sods. When I got to Adam's cousin Vic, he broke. Turned out, old Vic had the whole operation back up and running. I had his neck straightened too. I was captain-in-chief. The mayor of Southton sent me salted pork and roasted duck, and I got a crate from the tower's clerks. Finest brandy I ever had. I drank it with sharp apple. They took to calling me the blower, wondering what colour glass I'd contest with next because there's demand. Yellow smile, beaming down at us like mad sun. I didn't want to crack down again. It's daft, aye, but there were nights, few but enough, when thinking about the last crackdown scummed my cold sleep, kept me up late in the brandy with no one to talk to. It's the cost of the work, a burden for those of us making the hard choices. So I went through the alleys with my collar up and my hat down, and made Edmund tell me my fortune. Squire, let's skip the pleasantries and get on with it. Some respect, please. I am Edmund Crichton, Squire extraordinaire, trained in Ballykidden Academy, in scryery, hexery, and jiggery fucking pokery. His nostrils flared around a huff. Taste buds, he said. What? He wiggled fingers over the ball. I'm going to put taste buds right inside your arse. Liar, I winced, suddenly grateful he'd 5 incense sticks this time. The streets were worse than ever. There'd been a dead dog outside. They shit themselves in death too. What do you know of topaz glass? I said. Nothing. Consult the ball. Consult the... It's magic, not some mouldy scholar. Consult the ball. I don't consult. I coax. Cajole. Maybe even flirt a little. Give it a question, he whispered. A hypothesis. So, I asked if another crackdown would do it. Yeah, oh fuck, that's not good. What? Just get more greens in your diet. Crier, I warned. Know your place. That seemed to do it for Eben Squire extraordinaire. Crack down and find the source of topaz, he sniffed. Good. Hopefully I won't have to put up with your sour bake again. We'll see. The clerks pumped my office of money and turned a blind eye when suspects disappeared. We got there eventually. Yellow-smiled ghosts stopped multiplying. Crispy swan legs on silver platters. Garlicky salty monkey brains in golden bowls. My face at the tower, the only I'd ever attend, was a dream. But I knew there'd be fresh smiles soon, joining their ilk, like multi-hued saints judging me from a church window. I could afford single malt, triple distilled whiskey. And then the blue smiles fucked it. Clerks opened their coffers again, but when I set my lads to work, the streets kicked off, pushed us back, banjaxed our barricades and burnt half the station. Something unthinkable in Southton, Northton, Easton or Weston. A pissin' riot. Did they not have the sense they were born with? Who had won the war but the Tower? Who had found wheat during the famine when thousands died? And the plague? The Sapphire riots threatened the view of the Tower's power. The clerks were instructed to find a scapegoat. I'd been in the unburnt half of the station, going through some pillow pusher's pockets, 3 wee pouches of fat blue tablets, when the letter arrived. We regret we have no alternative. Ben, your service has been exemplary until dedication, unenviable, external optics, appearances, no choice. I slept in the station that night. No one else was about. You will understand, the letter confided. We can provide neither severance nor pension. I got to know the chill of Southton's squalor better. How the moist slicks and slides in your gullet, and clings, and cloys, and stays. A rainbow of smiles visited the alleys, with the Tower as their pale backdrop. Amethyst, amber, even back to emerald. I visited Edmund one more time. I wanted the dirty feckin' liar to know that I knew that he'd known. I'd been bollocks from the start. Eat more greens, he'd suggested. I haven't left since. I wail and gnash and yell from my corner of Edmund's ceiling, watching as he tells fortunes, and my shit-eating grin is fecking verdant. And
Damn, son, that was great.
thank
That
you.
was
Really enjoyed.
fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that a lot.
I
You nailed. Go on, Nico. You go ahead.
say I fucking love Edmund. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah, I laughed so hard at enjoy buying 4 shoes from now on, you wanker. That is That was absolutely phenomenal. All of his little jinxes he were putting on him was so personal. Absolutely astounding character. I loved him.
He's actually he's a metaphor. This is going to really sap the magic out of it a little bit. He's a metaphor for statistical modeling.
Ooh, go on.
Because I essentially the crystal ball. Well, I work as a public health scientist, and a lot of my work's involved in looking at drug and alcohol stuff.
Yeah.
And you need to really know what you're doing with statistics. If you don't, it can tell you whatever you want. So him being a liar but actually being right, that was me. That was me kind of self-indulging in that, I think.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in your feedback and sort of reaction to mine that it was a really classic um, conversation format. You know, this someone
Yeah.
confessing to a priest. You know, you find out the cop pressuring a CI is, I would say, of a similar level of like classic conversation format, isn't it? You know that
Yeah, totally.
there's always that scene in a cop in like some sort of crime drama where they go and put the screw on a CI. And I thought this is a really good and innovative twist on that. And then for it to happen, you know, three times, well, more times than that, but like three big times, and it just provided the backbone for the story, and I just really enjoyed it. And then on top of that, you had this just wonderful world building of these like street names for these drugs and stuff, like Emerald Glass Chew, Glass Munchers, and then obviously the ghosts with their blue and yellow and red smiles. I really you brought to life that drug as a problem for that community very evocatively.
Oh, thank
I
you.
would say, yeah.
There
It's
were
actually it's
loads
very
of
strongly based on real life as well. That unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah. What did you have like a particular drug in mind when you were thinking of it?
I suppose that the biggest corollary I can think of would be benzodiazepines in general in Scotland, with the very well publicized issues up here with drugs. But ultimately, this is
Mm.
it's meant to be kind of it's a comment on taking a crime-driven approach to drugs rather than a health-driven approach. The whole
Yeah.
piece, but it kind of came from I spend all day every day looking at quite depressing data. Um, I think this was just a way to get it out of me, if you know what I mean. Kind of
Yeah.
the that feeling that there's so much demand for people to not feel how they want to feel.
Yeah.
And without that going away, people will find a way to supply, I think. I didn't mean to
You
make things so grim.
No, no, I don't. Obviously, it is grim, but I think it was actually just a really exciting, well-written story as well. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that, like, I think that you've brought all of that stuff through, and then you end up with lines like "Squalor births the desire for solace," which is a killer line. Like that's a fantastic line, and it's killer because it's true, um, and it's well observed, and you've sometimes fantasy works really well to tackle issues that would be too dark, too grim, too sad
Oh yeah.
to tackle in sort of like contemporary storytelling. And I think this is a really good example of that, where this doesn't take a lot of leaps for people to get to it,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that it is actually a really interesting, well-made world. Um, so you've got the best of both worlds there. You're sort of having your cake and eating it too, and it does drive the story forwards really, really well. There was a line about like really near the start about like don't die with glass in your veins. Like that's the main thing that people know about glass,
Yeah.
Mhm.
chewing glass even, and that is such a good way of getting the reader's attention for oh, this is you need to pay attention to this right now, because it certainly grabbed my attention. I think it was a really good concept, well executed. Well done,
Oh,
thank you.
thank you.
I've got to agree with Ben and hammer home just the little turns of phrase and moments that completely sold the world and the characters in it. There was used the phrase penny cunny early on, and
Mhm.
it told me everything I needed to know about exactly what kind of sex worker this character was.
Yeah.
And and then his ego of what I should have said, do you know who I am? Because then that would
Mhm.
have really freaked her out. So it meant we knew, he's not a good guy. He thinks he's doing good, but he's clearly, he's cleaning up the streets in his mind, but all he's really talking about is the nice things he's getting out of doing it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
thought
Yeah, you can now afford better booze.
the
exactly.
crispy
Yeah.
swan necks. Good lord, what a
Mhm.
dish! Monkey brains in a gold bowl.
You've actually touched on like the two biggest homages I was making to my favorite author. Do you know Christopher Buehlman?
I do not.
I
Uh,
don't think so. Go
the
for it.
Black Tongue Thief and the Daughters War. Well, I kind of Penny Cunny. He has a pennycock as a sex worker, so I almost stole that from him.
Nice.
So thanks, Christopher.
Hey. So, Nico, you just need to make sure that you steal from someone you like in yours as well, and we're golden. We're away with it.
I'm just changing the
Um,
character's name to Vimes. Hang on.
yeah, just generally the lingo that you deployed was just really really evocative constantly. That bit where he's sort of talking about what he the fortune teller is sort of saying what he does, scryery, hexery, jiggery, fucking pokery.
Yeah.
Just it made it feel very real, and I think that's something that I certainly miss as a writer sometimes. That like people don't often use the right words, like the correct words for
Mhm.
what a thing is, or what an act is, or what a feeling is. We talk
Yeah,
in colloquialisms and slang 90% of the
exactly.
time.
Yeah, it's. So my work in progress at the minute, the novel I'm working on is it's kind of like a Peaky Blinders in fantasy Belfast. I was very driven by the idea of writing a novel that kind of celebrates my kind of voice rather than uses it purely for um, making characters look stupid or menacing, which is very often how you see it deployed. Take
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders for an example. And this story was just me practicing that voice in a new setting, essentially.
I think you executed it really 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 well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
across the
delivered
board, like
beautifully.
it was evocative. Yes.
It's-
Yeah.
It absolutely read wonderfully.
Oh, thank you.
Each character had their own. They were very clearly distinct people, and that on its own is a skill to be able to have your characters feel separate in such a short time. So yeah, really, really nicely delivered.
So hard to do. My throat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was good. That was great. Right, I don't think we
Mm.
can put it off much longer, Nico. I think you're going to have to see us out with the third story.
No, I did my one. You must have missed it.
Did I blink and miss it? Yeah.
You did, yeah. All right, I'll tell a story. Chin met tiles with a sickening crack. Garrett blinked dumbly through the wave of blinding pain. Instinct sent his tongue darting around his teeth, looking for damage. None had shattered with the blow, but the tang of blood was strong as he probed. The bindings at his wrist bit. They left burning welts, but writhe as he might, there was no way to disentangle himself. With a body-shaking effort, he lifted his head and looked up at the imposing seat before him. In contrast with the cold stone of the antechamber, it was luxuriant, clad in purple velvet. The man sat upon it, keen-eyed and withered with his decades, was equally opulent. Rings glinted in the weak torchlight. His yellowed smile blinked in and out of focus as the cracked tongue muscle behind exposed itself to run over the teeth. It is a crime punishable by death? Spying. The Lord spoke with the certainty of the well-fed. The words were clipped, a teacher's voice learned, not a father's. Kill me then. The words sent oozing rivulets of blood and saliva through Garrett's chin, staining the blonde hair of his beard an odd pink like a sow's exposed belly. Yeah, I rather think I shall. The Lord nodded. You will, of course, indulge me at my leisure. I should like to see if the craft is still with me. The old man stood then. He was rickety in his construction. It seemed for a moment like they would have to erect scaffold to keep him standing. A guard thrust out a cane, which the Lord seized, expertly stopping his drifting equilibrium. He stepped towards Garrett, the tapping of cane against stone deafening in the quiet of the antechamber. The guards made no sound at all. Even their breath and rustling mail seemed poised, prepared for what would come next. The Lord stepped close and extended a papyrus-dry hand. It pushed under Garrett's chin with surprising strength, and he found himself staring into the face of the old man. This close, the stink of his breath was unbearable. That dry tongue flicked once more, and cracking sores upon it wafted an odour of effluence through Garrett's undefended mouth. Green eyes. The mark of a Pharoosian, which would be the obvious answer, except no soul in Pharos would be so stupid as to use a spy with so readily identifiable a marker. You're not from Pharos, are you? Fuck you, Garrett managed. Hard leather crashed against his head, and the world moved 90 degrees, seemingly with nothing of the space in between being experienced. He blinked and found himself once again reunited with his body. A guard, the same one who had kicked him in the head, was dragging him up by the hair. It felt as though the roots must surely give way and offer a reprieve from the agony, but they held until he found himself once more kneeling, dizzied from pain. Well, now, I am correct, yes? You are not from Pharos? No, I am not. The words bubbled more blood from Garrett's mouth. He daren't check his teeth. Inside his right cheek an ache had formed, where the blow must have landed. Aha! Marvellous! The Lord took a few staggering steps, his stick clacking the whole way. As he circled Garrett, he would stop and check the details of him, though Garrett did not know why, nor what he was looking for. Dusky, but not dark, your skin. Could be a clever trick by the Mantonese. Can't really place you by that, though to my knowledge they have no current quarrel with the Frosians. So why use someone with green eyes? He mumbled to himself as he moved around Garrett's aching form. Garrett simply battled to remain conscious. If he fell to bloodied slumber, they would never allow him to wake, and he knew it. Now, Leos, they do not like Pharos at all. They don't like anyone, not really. And an excellent spy master they have there. Harold was one of mine before he slunk off for a higher station. Grass is always greener and all that. Are you one of Harold's? The old man leant in and washed his filthy breath into Garrett's eyes. They stung with it. I shall not say. The old yord yelled excitedly. What fun! That's more like it. Now you're being a proper spy. He slapped Garrett lightly on the cheek, like he was rewarding a sickly hound for barking on command. But of course, you could have been lying to me before about Pharos. Now that would be a clever game. Are you a clever man? The Lord eyed him expectantly, and Garrett considered his options. He turned his head to look at the guard who had kicked him. The man nodded once and placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. The instruction was clear. Keep talking, or I will have no more use for you. I have some wisdom, my lord, but more cunning. The words came thick, dirtied by the ruin of his mouth. But the Lord seemed pleased with the answer. Yes, I do suppose you should. Will you tell me why you've come here? Isn't that for you to figure out, my lord? The answer did not satisfy the guard, who scoffed and cuffed him. This time the knocked tooth came loose, and Garrett felt it sloshing among his mouthful of blood. He spat it out. The Lord stared at it fixedly for a time, a smile playing on his face. Little spy, you have lost a tooth. How queer the game that we must play for me to learn the truth. The Lord tittered at his rhyme, and singing it again to himself, staggered back to his chair. He sat and exhaled. It was a noise unwelcomed by the Lord, but impossible to prevent its escape. So many enemies I have, so many who'd send you. An information stealer, assassin, kidnapper, but how will I know? As Garrett opened his mouth, hoping that rather than just blood, some witty lie which might save him would emerge, the door behind him crashed open. The thump of a body landing next to him drew his eyes. They'd failed. But perhaps he could survive. We caught another one, my lord. He died in the scrap, sir. Took 3 guards with him. Oh, they're well trained then. Intriguing. The Lord rubbed at his chin, barely reacting to the corpse or news of its murders. The guard next to Garrett drew his blade with a terrific hiss. There may be more of them, then, my lord. I shall dispatch of this one, and my men and I will seek out and destroy the rest. Garrett tensed as he waited for death. And then, as if a borrowed voice, he found that he had begun to speak. My lord, you've not yet guessed correctly. The guard was so shocked his hand was stayed, and the Lord grinned wide. Am I close? Who could say? Garrett returned the Lord's smile. It was stained ruddy. Well, spoke the Lord. You? Yes. Only me. Be ashamed to leave it unanswered, my lord. If you'll indulge me, perhaps we could continue our guessing game tomorrow? The old lord flicked his rancid tongue and bellowed a hacking laugh. And you will tell me the truth, and answer all that I ask? The guard cut across him, but the lord waved a hand. Will you? Yes, spat Garrett. Then, young man, your request I will indulge. With relief, Garrett allowed his head to slump. His comrades would be slaughtered, but it would take the fool longer than he had left in his life to guess who they were. Freedom was now an old man's rough night's sleep away. He'd have these bindings off soon enough. Then all that stood between him and freedom was the truth, or a well-held pillow.
Woo!
Oof.
That's fantastic.
Gosh. Intense. Very intense.
Oh,
Very
glad you thought so.
We were talking about classic conversation formats.
There you
Torturer
go.
and Spy
3 for 3.
is
Yep.
another classic one. You're great. But then also, it had an element of the sort of 1001 Nights to it, didn't it? That Scheherazade playing for time by
Yeah.
telling her husband a story to survive the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. The whole like potential red herrings and spycraft and the sort of cut, thrust, and parry of intrigues. I think you captured that all really nicely. I also really liked the spoke with the certainty of the well-fed early on. I think there's always a line in a story, isn't there? Especially when you're being read it out or you're listening to it,
Yeah.
where so you have to sort of earn your audience's trust that you've got an angle, you've got a voice, and that things are going to happen, and that the author can speak to the audience basically. And I
Yeah.
felt like the spoke with the certainty of the well-fed was probably that in this for me.
Yeah.
That was the okay. We can now see, because that opens up all kinds of like cultural and class divides and things like
Yeah.
that, and it really brought it to life. I was joking about making a reference to someone that you love the storytelling of, but the chin met tiles right at the start
Yeah.
reminded me very strongly of Vimes landing chin first in a gutter in Feet of Clay.
Oh, it's
Quite,
true.
yeah, it's quite they're quite similar, and they both have the same impact, which is just, oh shit, that's really bad. I
Yeah,
always
that would
think that
really
kind of
hurt.
injury that would just really fucking hurt. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. The eye color
Ooh,
being a red herring was fun, or like not a red
mm.
herring. Like it's good. It was good stuff.
I thought
I
How about you, Ivor? What did you reckon?
yeah, yes, please.
I loved it. I thought the kind of tactile imagery you used to get across these injuries was continually inventive and fucking gross the whole time. It was kind
Oh
of
yeah.
made me squirm. Something about teeth, especially in mouths. It's just so uncomfortable to think about. I do have a favor to ask.
Oh, go
I
on.
was wondering if you could do your "Aha, marvelous" line again.
How did I say to say? Aha! Marvelous, something like that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, it was fantastic.
it's a good aha.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny how none of us actually, the theme was indulged, so we could have had characters having a really good time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
instead we had existential dread, being tortured, and so
yeah.
on.
The one of the weird things that came up from that was that Nico and I both had old men with like unhealing wounds on them.
Mm.
Yeah, in
I just
fancy
thought
chairs.
that's a really, in fancy chairs, really strange thing to have arrived at from Indulge as a prompt, I think.
I mean, we do spend all our time
Gosh.
indulging a mad old wizard, so maybe that's why.
Oh, that is true. Maybe that's why we're just ideating about getting rid of Eustaris.
Very good.
That whole bit where this tittering old man rhymes villainously. It just, yeah, you conjured a very good villain,
He was a
Yeah,
really
and
fun character to
yeah,
write. I must say.
I
yeah,
made a
that
note,
well, it
which,
comes
sorry.
through. Go ahead.
Yeah, it totally comes through. I made a note that kind of, it really communicates the importance of context, because all I wrote was great asshole.
Nice asshole.
Yeah,
Thanks. I grew up myself.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you need a great asshole in order to sell a scene like this. I think if they'd
Yeah,
have been bland or 2D in any way, that this whole sequence would have fallen over, and it didn't because of this guy, this this character, this old man who's trying to see if he's still got it, but from the point of view of the person that he's torturing and pumping for information. Really good.
it
I
was.
did have one question, which
Yeah,
might be
go
an
on.
edit, but no, you
Yeah, I
go for your reaction first there, and then
was going
I'll
to say
go in.
the thing that I found quite difficult in it was I did have an idea of where he was from and what the reason that he was in the palace was, but choosing to not give any of it away to leave it open for interpretation, I don't know how well that was managed. It's very possible that's what you were going to ask about, but
Well,
yeah,
it sort of was, it sort of wasn't, but
yeah,
yeah, because I actually feel like there needs to be some sort of, from like a storytelling perspective, doesn't it? There needs to be some change, like an obstacle for the main character, some sort of change in that character that we then have to see by the end,
yes,
and we watch them go from being a believer in their plan to just playing for time.
yeah,
And so we actually do see that happen. So it does. I think for me, it does tick the box of a completed story. I would be lying if I said that I didn't think that I would have liked to have known what that was, or have some more context as to whether or not he was about to get one over on the old man, or whether he was just like he was just trying to get out and run away and save his own skin.
yeah.
Um, that might just be me though. What did you think to that?
I thought I don't really mind um, ambiguity when it's done as well as that. Um,
Mm.
and I think I'm happy because I'm happy enough to assume that he does escape and he does put a pillow over someone's stinking mouth. I was wondering if perhaps the idea that he'd be able to, maybe I missed it if it's in there, but the idea that he'd be able to loose his bindings if given the chance, if that could be brought in earlier, if he wanted to maybe establish stakes, because I kind of I thought it was just playing for time until that point, and it felt like didn't feel bad, but it was a reorientation, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I see
I think
that.
that's good. That's a good note. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder whether you could do like a bit of internal monologue about how he is, this guy is like a sort of Bond character, and he is good at getting out of these scenarios, and they don't like they don't have enough men in the room to handle him if he does get free, something like that. Like,
Yeah, it's there implicit,
you know,
like subtly with the his accomplice took down 3 guards and uh
true.
stuff like that, but yeah.
Yeah. The
No,
the uh, the
definitely.
the bit that I was going to mention.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
the bit that I was going to mention was that I'm fairly sure really early on, he bet you. I might have misheard, but does he say that he wants to die early on in his internal, voice?
He says that he doesn't want to. He's
He says that he
fighting to
doesn't
stay
want to.
awake. He's fighting to stay awake because if he knows if
So
he
that happens
passes
much
out, they'll
later.
just
That's
kill him.
that's
Okay,
that's like 2/3 of the way through. I'm talking like inside the first few paragraphs.
I'm
I
gonna
feel
have
like
to look.
there's a bit where he sort of. I might have just completely misunderstood something. But if there is a bit in there that is what I'm saying, that does need to come out or change, because we know later on that he will play for time. He is trying not to die. He is trying to resist this torture. He doesn't want to go down to it. Um, Potentially one for the realist. And again, I might have got the wrong end of the stick there entirely. It's just I thought I saw something or heard something.
Oh, he did say kill me then to the.
Yeah, that's it.
I think you're right.
Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Some sort of ballsy
I mean,
plan,
it could just
perhaps.
be
I'll
half.
sell it as that.
Yeah, sell it as a ballsy plan. Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun. The other thing that I liked was that you actually felt the kick in the head. Now, this is one of my pet peeves about um, storytelling, and in particular like action movies and things like that. But you often get like the hero in like cowboy movies or big budget action movies or something. The bad guy kicks him in the head whilst he's down.
Yeah.
That should be the end of any fucking fight. If you get kicked in the fucking head whilst you're on the ground, you are not getting back up. That's it. And in those kinds of movies, it's always like a comma to the fight. It's like oh yeah, but of course he's the
Mm.
hero, so he's going to get up and then kick ass. It's like no, no, that's brain damage. That's brain damage and unconsciousness immediately.
Yeah.
Um, so the fact that your guy got kicked in the head, we didn't even know what it was because he didn't know what it was, and then he realized from the nature of his injury after he woke back up what it was a really
Yeah.
good way of showing that injury. I think.
I
Thank
think
you.
there's yeah, something that bit of description was based very much on the real life feeling of going from upright to horizontal
Yeah,
and
yeah.
nothing seeming to happen in between. But it's because someone hit you really hard. It's the worst
It
feeling.
just changed your reality. It
Yeah.
changed your understanding of time for a moment. Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun, and as you say, like very just expertly done. A lot of fun with it. Like the characters, like the stakes. Good
The
stuff.
description was great throughout as well.
Thank you.
I really liked
That's
them. I know
definitely
it's a you mentioned earlier having your cake and eating it, which is kind of a
Yeah.
something I try to aspire to all the time. The term papyrus dry was there you go, setting, time and place and
yeah.
an actual description of the skin. Super efficient.
And another weird link between Ben and my stories. Rooms full of bloody parchmenty papyrusy paper.
Old men and paper.
Oh, I did mean to mention it earlier. The first story mentioned mighty bookcases. Were you not tempted to say tiny bookcases?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, this is the second time. So I've actually written. I think the last two stories that I've written have had bookcases in them, and
Mm.
I don't know what's going on in my brain, but like my brain's putting them in It's very strange. So yeah, well spotted. Yeah, it'll happen at some point. I might just have to write a story about a tiny bookcase to get it out, and
Mm.
then I can move on. I can move on with my storytelling.
And we never record again.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end. Oh gosh. Well, I mean, those were really interesting. Thank you guys. I really liked yours, Ivor, and I really liked yours, Nico. Really good
So
stuff.
the same
I
to
was
you,
one.
I
I was
gotcha.
just wondering. I was wondering, Ivor, if you could potentially tell our audience a bit about the book that you've got out at the moment, and yeah, the first scars, I believe it's called.
Yeah, the first scars. Yeah, it's it's a grimdark. It was long listed, like we said at the start. It was long listed for the self-publishing fantasy blog off this year, 2025. Um, and I lost in the semi-final to someone it was their seventh or eighth book. So, being
Oh
my
wow!
debut, I was happy to buy out at that stage. I think. Um,
So is it a
it's
sort
a
of bracketed event that?
Yeah,
Is it
it used to be. It's been going on for 10 years, and some quite big names like one of it, like M.L. Wang, Justin Lee Anderson, previous winners. And it used to be that I think there were maybe like 100 participants or something, but this year it was 600, so they had to do a lottery. And then it was 300 people in the competition from there. So it's a lot of work for the blogs that are reviewing, you know. Um, but yeah, it's a really good contest to be involved. If anyone's listening and fancies self-publishing in fantasy, definitely look up Spiffbo. Um, the first Scars is kind of it's a grimdark Edge of Tomorrow. You know, the Tom Cruise movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't realize that's what it was, because originally it was just a really self-indulgent short story that I wrote for myself. Um, I really love Dark Souls and Elden Ring and those computer games,
yeah.
and I kind of just fancied writing a story for me. But then I realized that initially I didn't think it would have enough legs to be a book, because the characters die and come back again over and over. I was like, well, that's just kind of repetitive and there aren't any stakes. But then I realized the stakes could come from relationships, and that was where the idea to turn it into a whole book came from. So yeah, it's been out. It's only on Amazon currently. Hopefully, I'll get it onto more platforms when I get the time.
That sounds very
Fantastic.
much like my sort of thing, I must say.
I was going to
A lot of
say
fun to
the.
write, because you have to find inventive ways for everyone to get killed over and over again, which was fun.
I'll also
Go on.
Edge of Tomorrow mentioned, so I do have to tell all of our listeners to go and read the manga All You Need Is Kill, which is a terrible
Mm.
name once you translate it into English, but it is what that movie's based on, and it's great
Yeah.
fun.
Fantastic. And Ivor, where can people go to keep up to date with news about you on social media and things like that? And do you have a website, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I've got a website, ivorkhill.com, with a contact format. I don't really post on social media, but I think I've got more or less all of them. So you'll find me under Ivor K. Hill on the platform of choice.
Wonderful. Well, that brings the story episode to a close, but we'll be speaking very shortly with Ivor, going through some interview questions. So do join us next week for that. But for now, thank you, Ivor.
Oh, thank you.
Goodbye, Vo.
Oh God, what a pun! Oh no. Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Tiny Bookcase.
Remember to subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss out on the future fun.
Also, tell a friend. If you like this episode, link them to it.
We'd be tremendously grateful. You can follow us on Twitter at BookcaseTiny, Facebook at The Tiny Bookcase, and Instagram at BookcaseTiny for updates. Speaking of supporting the podcast, well, magic can only take one so far. The Tiny Bookcase is supported by the generosity of its patrons. Those kind souls have really kept my belly full the last year. Let's cast a spell for them, shall we? For rich ginger tones on their scalp, let us cast the Orangi Hedondo spell for Scott Byrne. And for general fabulousness, why not the Ooh La La, How's Your Mother spell on Matthew McLaren?
How do you come up with that shit, man?